And of course, if we take this from the digital sphere of ESG and go back to like what it first started as, the case for ESG folds into the coming carbon tax, which we haven't talked about in a while, but it's still in the works. Don't lose track. The coming carbon tax, which is now being heralded as the answer to pay for UBI, or Universal Basic Income, which is you get paid to not work. As well as increase, and they're claiming that it will increase global GDP. I'd love to see that one. Okay, let's take a look at this. So this is coming from Business Insider, and I took a look at the actual reports. I'm not. It's just a wall of text, so I wasn't going to try and put it on here for you guys. But it's coming from 50 Cell. Which is a research and study website built for stuff like this. But I read through that. We're just going to look at the Business Insider thing, and then I can kind of give you guys what I saw when I read through that thing. It says a global universal basic income, or UBI, could turbocharge global GDP. Study finds. Study found that implementing global universal basic income could boost GDP by 130%. Okay, so right off the bat, we're seeing that this is a giant promotion for UBI. We know that this is going to be part of it. We know that the UBI has to be some part of this coming beast system that's being implemented. We see the rise of AI. We see the decline in jobs. A lot of people are saying, how are they going to pay all this money to all these people? Well, again, World War III is going to answer part of that when it comes to reducing the numbers. And we're seeing all these different elements that are starting to go in the direction of a UBI. And we've had talking heads talk about how a UBI is going to happen, going to have to happen. We've seen the finance minister from Saudi Arabia say UBI is going to happen. We've seen Elon Musk, who's helped developing this AI stuff. He's saying it's going to happen. We see Sam Altman, who's also helping develop the AI stuff, as well as WorldCoin and other things. He says it's going to happen. Klaus Schwab, Uncle Klaus, has also said that it's going to happen, and other people as well. And those are just ones off the top of my head. All these people have said UBI is going to happen. It's going to have to happen. And I believe them on that. And we're seeing evidence that is showing that it's going to happen. So to promote this thing that they want to do, which they tested in 2020 when everybody was locked down at home and all these countries were out there giving stimulus checks, or I call it helicopter money. That was a test for UBI, whether people recognize that or not. And it was. And so this is their promotion case for it. And it says funding a global UBI with a carbon tax would also promote sustainability, the study's author says. So we're seeing the carbon tax and carbon credits being folded into the UBI system now. And so something that I've talked about when it comes to watching these systems isn't necessarily that this is going to be the thing that happens. So what I mean by that is when we saw the unicoin come out, we were looking at that and going, is that the coin? When we need to view it in the way of they are just preparing the way for the thing when it comes. This may not be it, but this could be the precursor for it. And that'll get folded into something else. And so what we see going on here is the carbon tax, and anything that follows carbon tax is carbon credit system. So they're one and the same, is now being folded into UBI. So that's important to understand, is sometimes when we see these systems come into play, that may not be the system, even though it may look like it or appear to, but it could be folded into, or it could be a precursor to something that we know is going to come down later. And this is what we're seeing here with the carbon tax, carbon credit system being folded in the UBI. Says basic income programs gain traction post-pandemic to address high unemployment. Hey, almost like they were planning a test of some type, right? Yeah. Researchers behind a newly published study called Utilizing Basic Income to Create a Sustainable Poverty-Free Tomorrow outlined how universal basic income could provide a two-pronged solution to both environmental sustainability, because it's all about climate change. It's It's all about climate change. What is it? We were supposed to be in an ice age, 10 years ago by now? Thanks, Al Gore. Solution to both environmental sustainability and social resilience that could grow the global GDP from 39% up to 130%. Okay, right. I think they're talking about the pockets of the rich could grow 130%. Basic income pilots gained popularity over the COOF stuff, which caused record high unemployment, nearly 15% in the United States in early 2020. Yep, they were testing it. It goes on to say, I must concede that the U.S. may be in last place to engage with our proposal for all sorts of reasons, but the situation may not persist forever, as there are indications that Gen Z and millennials seem to care relatively more about tackling both climate change, we're all going to die, and inequality than older Americans. All you old people are just causing problems. That's basically what they're saying. Basic income pilots in America have met with opposition from conservative lawmakers. One representative in Iowa, which moved to ban such programs, called it socialism on steroids. I call it neo-feudalistic technocracy. That's what they're trying to build. I know people are still saying communism and socialism. It's going to be much worse than that. It's going to be kings and peasants, and they're going to use technology to rule over the peasants. And that is what is coming. And when we have the digital UBI system in place, that's what's ultimately going to be happening. In other parts of the world, however, the idea enjoys wide political support. South Africa is on track to be the first country to adopt the universal basic income, but all other countries have been testing this same thing. Now, I want to point something out on this. Says, I must concede that the U.S. may be the last place to engage with our proposal for all sorts of reasons. I can give you one reason why, because the United States is the final plug that needs to be pulled, and they're not ready to pull the plug yet. We've talked about this when we went over the financial stuff a couple weeks ago, that the economy should have just already multiple times, but it hasn't, because they're keeping it afloat. They are still pumping air into that balloon. They got Band-Aids all over it because the balloon is about ready to pop. They're just not ready to do it yet. They're getting it bigger. The bigger it is, the more it's going to blow up. And again, the financial and the war stuff is all interconnected. So if the war is not ready yet, that means the financial stuff's not ready yet. If the financial stuff's not ready yet, the war stuff's not ready yet. And so that's the U.S. is the key. They're the ones that is holding everything back right now. And they're not ready to pull the plug. So that's why we don't see this stuff implemented yet. It says Somalia, that person who I quoted earlier, and the study's other co-authors focused on funding this global UBI plan through a carbon tax because of the global push to reduce carbon emissions, the climate change, to reach sustainability goals. There's the UN creeping in. The study says they found that a carbon tax could generate trillions. Really? Okay. Trillions annually. Almost like they're referencing the man who's going to have trillions at his disposal, right? Depending on the scale of the flat tax. In theory, it is a beautiful idea to use basic income, UBI, to help people sustain nature and boost the economy. It also seems possible to raise a big chunk of the funds needed to do this by taxing CO2 emitters. That's us. They don't say it. They don't say it. But we are the CO2 emitters. We are the carbon that they want to reduce. That's where the carbon credit system comes into play. We'll talk about that in just a second. By taxing CO2 emitters, degraders of biodiversity, overfishers, deforesters, plastic polluters, oil spillers, and the agricultural section, told Business Insider. Yes, they don't say it. A lot of people read that as just the companies or the corporations, but it's us too. They have been testing carbon credit systems for a very long time. Even go back a year ago, and I showed a picture of a menu from Ireland where they had a test for the carbon credit system, where it showed the dollar amount as well as the CO2 credit amount next to it. And they were testing the stuff. Not to mention, we've seen things like it's not out, or it seems to be restricted and is being bundled up into something else, but I was talking about the economy card, which was a carbon credit card. And once you reach a certain carbon limit, the card shuts off and you can't spend any more money. And this stuff, it comes with a carbon tracker and everything. Plus, we've seen stuff in WEF panels and whatnot that they've talked about where all this stuff is coming with a carbon credit tracker and how everybody is going to have one to track their carbon footprint. And we've seen all this stuff when it comes to this. So when they're talking about those who emit CO2 and they need to put a hold on them, that's us. And so the carbon tax comes along with the carbon credit system. And now we're seeing that they're trying to take that and put it into, bundle it up with the UBI system as well, which is something that I've talked about a lot. The UBI system is going to be a 2-level system. You're going to have your digital money and you're going to have your carbon credits, and they're going to work in tandem. So you can have a whole bunch of digital money, but if you don't have any carbon credits, you can't buy anything. You can't spend it on anything. So that's something to keep in mind. But they've got some stuff to play with that as well when it comes to the rich. But we'll get there in just a second. Now, keep in mind with this, back in January during the Davos WEF Summit, a panel of the president of Singapore, the director general of the World Trade Organization, the minister of finance from Saudi Arabia, the editor at large of Bloomberg TV, co-founder and co-chairman of the Carlyle Group, president of the European Central Bank, that's Lagarde there, and then the federal minister of finance of Germany. All of those people were on a WEF panel back in January and explained that the framework for a global carbon tax is already created. It's done. It's ready to be implemented. They've got it done. It's ready to go. All the countries involved have already agreed to all of the rules. All that needs to be done is for the right time, they will implement it and ratify the agreement. It's done. It's ready to go. And they told us, why haven't they implemented it yet? Because they're not ready. That system is not ready to go out yet. And so they've been testing the carbon credit system for us as well, where there's going to be allotments of monthly carbon usage that will determine what we can purchase. And again, I've gone over this stuff in the past when it comes to the economy card and the menus and everything like that. Things like gas, like fuel, as well as red meat, and all that stuff is high carbon. And so you're going to have to pay a lot of carbon credits in order to pay for that stuff. So that's going to be for the rich. Things like public transportation, lab-grown food or sustainable food, and anything like that. High-end material is going to be for higher carbon credits, and then low-end material is going to be for lower stuff. But public transportation and stuff, that's all going to be lower on the carbon things. So that's for us peasants to use. So those with all the carbon credits will be able to eat and live, happily. And everybody else is just going to have to be going for dregs. And of course, coming with it is the ability to sell carbon credits, which will allow the rich to line up and purchase everybody's carbon credits so they can live their perfect lives while everybody else barely makes it. So again, this could be a situation where UBI gives you so little digital currency that you can sell carbon credits to the rich for more digital currency. But if you don't have enough carbon credits, then you can't buy anything anyways. You see how this becomes a serious problem where the peasants are just going to be, out of luck while the rich are living lavishly. That's ultimately what they're trying to do with this system. It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. Let's see here. Just a couple questions. Let's see. Maya says, husband and I were wondering, what is that in the green lighting? Is that a cartoon pew pew, or is that real lighting? No, that's real. That is my real AK-47 back there. Isn't she beautiful? I love her. I call her Sasha. Yeah. Yes, it is real. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next. We just got a couple more things And I know we're running out of time, but hang with me, guys. A couple more things. Okay, so when it comes to the one world economy, which we know is going to happen, Revelation talks about it. One world economy is coming. That's going to be connected to the mark of the beast in some type of way where you're going to need that in order to buy and sell, participate in society. But this one world economy is coming, and all countries and governments will go along with it. So we know that's coming. And we see the tides going in the direction, of course, the UBI system we just talked about, which that's going to be in tandem with the digital system of digital ID, digital wallet, and digital currency. Now coming along with it, to tie in the digital system with the UBI system, the NIST, or National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is a part of the federal commerce branch of the U.S. government, has been working with Georgetown University. If you guys don't know about Georgetown University, they are a proud, and I mean proud, they make sure everybody knows it, is a Jesuit school. So the NIST has been working with Georgetown Jesuit College to establish a passkey authentication within digital IDs in order to receive public benefits. UBI would be a public benefit. Yes. So let's take a look. It says NIST issues guidance to fit passkeys into digital identity recommendations. And you can see the paper right there. We're not going to go over the entire paper because, again, I don't want to bore you guys to death. So we'll just go ahead and switch on over to this one. These are both coming from Biometric Update, NIST Georgetown, which is the Jesuit school, and CDT to enhance digital identity guidelines for public benefits. The U.S. Department of Commerce National Institute of Standards and Technology is tailoring its digital identity guidelines to better support public benefit programs. These programs assist beneficiaries with essential needs such as food, housing, and medical expenses. If you guys want to be dependent upon the U.S. government, then you're going to need to start moving in line with the digital identity guidelines. Oh, yeah. They plan this out perfectly. Make everybody dependent upon the government and then force digital onto them in order to get everybody to switch over. It's evil, but it's a perfect plan. Project is collaboration between the NIST, Georgetown University's Beek Center, one of those, for Social Impact and Innovation, and the Center for Democracy and Technology. Under Secretary of Commerce for Standard and Technology and NIST Director Lori E. Lacasio emphasized the importance of balancing access and security in benefits delivery. See? Security again. If you guys want these public benefits, if you guys want to be able to live dependent upon the U.S. government, well, you're going to have to do it more securely. It's for your safety, of course. She noted that different populations faced varied needs and barriers, with the collaboration aims to address by bringing together diverse communities. All about diversity. Says Lynn Oberman, Executive Director of the Beek Center, highlights the goal of developing human-centered solutions to improve government services, particularly for vulnerable populations. She expresses pride in partnering with the NIST and CDT to enhance security, privacy, and equity. Everybody's favorite words. The goal is to create voluntary resources for public sector organizations, including profile NIST digital identity guidelines, which we just looked at the front page of that paper, to help evaluate authentication and identity proofing practices for specific benefits. Givens, president and CEO of CDT, stresses the need for carefully developed identity management solutions focused on equity, privacy, and security. Everybody's favorite words again. They just love throwing that stuff out there. She emphasized that people should access public benefits without technical barriers or privacy compromises, and trust that the system will function fairly and securely. Question. This is talking about more advanced public benefit situation. For anybody, and I know I've got a few people watching, for anybody who lives off of Social Security, you bought into that system, and now you're pulling your money back out for this. Have they made it easy for you at all? because I have just heard nothing but horror stories when it comes to people trying. They're not getting what they're supposed to. They're sending too little. I've even seen times when they're sending too much. They can't get anybody on the phone. There's always problems with stuff. Cards not working, food stamp cards not working, all this stuff not working and everything. And now they're talking about bringing in a more advanced situation or more advanced system. And they're saying that it's going to be easier for people. You guys can't even get the basic stuff right. How are you going to do this? Just throwing it out there. But don't worry, it's for equity, privacy, and security, right? Last year, researchers in the United States examined the way in which authentication and identity proofing is used in the U.S. to give access to public benefits. In a growing call for accountability, governments and policymakers are urging AI developers and users in both consumer and public sectors to proactively identify and mitigate bias and discrimination in AI systems, according to recent report. Bias and discrimination. You know how they get AI to do that? They get a lot more people to sign up and be connected to AI, and they continue to push their biometric data forward. Yeah. Isn't it great? So basically, what this is they are now setting up and preparing to get people to basically, if you are dependent upon the government, you will be forced to go digital in order to receive your benefits.